Goblin launch detected.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's patron shoutout goes to Real Name. Thanks for supporting me on Patreon. In today's game, Ian, Maximus, and Mika have rejoined me, and I'm testing out my Felix 5 Boots deck, keeping Misty Rainforest, Archmage's Newt, Breeding Pool, Lightning Greaves, Island, Forest, and Marcus Mutant Mare. Ian is playing his Prime Speaker Vannifar deck, keeping 3 islands, a forest, Underseller Myconid, Unexpected Results, and Curator's Ward. Maximus is playing Elesh Norn, not that one, but this one, keeping 3 plains, Staff of Nin, Charge of Mites, Savine's Reclamation, and Liquimetal Torque. And last but not least, Mika is playing his King of the Oathbreakers, keeping a Swamp, a Plains, Phantom General, Bajuka Bog, Remedy, Exotic Orchard, and Cameo of Ancient Law. I win the die roll and start us off. Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy-to-use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG Sealed and Singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. I draw, and just play a tap Breeding Pool. Ian's got a Forest. Maximus draws and plays a Plains. Mika's turn has him playing a tap Bajuka Bog, but with no graveyard to exile, just passes after that. I've got a Forest return, and pay 2 mana for a new card, Archmage's Newt, and I pass to Ian after that. Ian draws and just plays an island and passes. Maximus has a Plains return, and pays 2 for a Liquimetal Torque. Mika's also got a Plains, and he taps 2 for a Talisman of Hierarchy. I play a tapped Watery Grave, and go to combat. I poke Mika for 2 with the Newt, and pass to Ian. Ian's got an island for turn, and casts his Underseller Myconid, making a Saproling as it comes in. Maximus has a Plains, and then casts Vulpine Harvester, and passes to Mika once it resolves. Mika's got a Swamp for turn, and brings out his commander, King of Oathbreakers, and passes back to me. I draw, and play a Forest. I cast Reconnaissance Mission, and go to combat. I swing the Newt at Ian for 2, which he takes. This draws me a card from the Reconnaissance Mission, and I pass after that. Ian draws and plays a land. He then casts Prime Speaker Vannifar, and he goes to combat. He swings the Myconid and its Sapling friend at me, dealing 2, and passes after that. Max draws and just plays a Plains, and isn't in a rush, so he passes turn. Mika plays an Exotic Orchard for his turn, and he casts Cameo of Ancient Law, and then goes to combat. He swings the King at Max for 3, who takes the hit, and Mika passes. My turn has me playing an island, and I then cast Marcus and go to combat. I swing the Newt at Mika, and he blocks with a Cameo, and then sacrifices it before damage to destroy my Reconnaissance Mission. With my combat fogged, and being tapped out, I have nothing to do but pass. Ian plays an island for turn, and then casts Errant. He then activates Vannifar, sacrificing the Myconid, and gets a Saproling token, and finds Volo. He then passes, and during his end step, Max casts a Charge of Mites, making 2 Mite tokens, and then moves to his turn. Maximus has a Plains for turn, and he taps enough mana for a Staff of Nin. He then goes to combat. He swings the 2 Mites at Mika, and Mika responds by casting Embolden to prevent the damage, and phases out King of Oathbreakers. This has Mika taking 0, and after that, Max passes. The King of the Oathbreakers phases in, and makes a tap Spirit token, and Mika then draws for turn. He plays a Plains, and casts Phantom General. With that on the stack, Max responds by pinging the spirit token by tapping a Staff of Nin. With nothing else, Mika passes. I've got a Misty Rainforest for turn, and I then cast Felix and move to combat. I swing Marcus at Max, and he takes 4, and Marcus's ability triggers twice. The first time gives him a +1/+1 counter, and the second one then draws him a card. I pass after that. Ian draws and casts an unexpected result. He flips into a Mystic Reflection, which doesn't do anything unfortunately, and then just goes to combat. He swings Volo and the Saplings at Max, and Max blocks one of them with the Vulpine Harvester, but takes the rest. After that, Ian activates Vannifar, sacrificing Errant, and going to find Prosperous Innkeeper. He then passes to Max after that. Max draws and plays a Plains. He moves to combat and hits Ian with the Vulpine Harvester. After combat, Max then casts Elesh Norn, and once she's out, flips her into the Argent Etchings. He incubates 2 5 times and then transforms them, and then passes to Mika. Mika's turn is quite quick as he draws and then casts a Ghost Council of Orzhov. In response, I crack my Misty Rainforest, and then the Ghost Council comes in, and Mika drains me for 1. He passes after that. I cast a Grim Hireling, which is one of the MVPs of the deck, and play a Lightning Greaves. I then equip the Lightning Greaves onto Felix. Boot count 1. Moving to combat, I swing my Commander and Marcus at Ian. He takes the hit, and I put a counter onto Felix, and then draw 2 from Marcus. I also get to make 4 treasure tokens from the Grim Hireling. In my second main phase, I play an island and pass. Ian draws and plays a forest. He casts a Diluvian Primordial, and Max responds by pinging the Prosperous Innkeeper before it comes in. Ian gets to make a copy of the Primordial thanks to Volo, and he then casts Charge of Mites and Embolden. He has the charge deal 5 damage to Marcus, but the second Primordial has no targets as it enters. He then sacrifices his Sapling token to Vannifar, and goes to find a Gilded Goose, making a food token as it comes in. He then passes, and during his end step, I cast Beast Within and take out the Argent Etchings, and we then move to Max's turn. Max draws and plays a Plains. He casts Ghostly Prison and then Essence of Orthodoxy. This has Max incubating 2, and he then goes to combat. He swings his tokens at me, and I take a whole 13. With nothing else, he passes. Mika just draws, casts Felwar Stone, and passes. My turn has me playing an Exotic Orchard, and I then cast a Yara's Oathsworn, as well as a Goldvein Pick, which I then equip onto the Oathsworn. I then move the Greaves over onto the Oathsworn, and then move to combat. I swing it at Max, paying the 2 for Ghostly Prison, and send Felix at Mika. Mika triple blocks on Felix, and then casts Celestial Crusader, and buffs them all by 1. Max then takes 3, and Felix trades with the Phantom General, but I get 2 +1/+1 counters onto the Oathsworn, and I get to make 4 treasures from the Goldvein Pick and Hireling working together. In my post-combat main phase, I then cast a Bloated Contaminator and pass. Ian draws and plays an island. He then casts an Endraiser Forerunners and gets a copy of it with Volo. I'm familiar with how this will play out, so I cast Force of Will and counter the real one. The copy then comes in and pumps his board by +2/+2 Vigilance, Trample, and Haste I think, and he goes to combat, swinging all out at me. I chump what I can and take out Vannifar. But after some quick math, Max realizes that I die if he pings me for the Staff of Nin, which he does, and with combat taking me out, Ian then passes to Max. Max draws his 2 and recasts Elesh Norn. He then passes to Mika. Mika draws and casts an Invasion of Tolvada and chooses Ian to defend it. Mika gets back his Phantom General when it enters, and he then passes turn. Ian plays a tap Myriad Landscape, and then casts Curator's Ward on Volo, and then follows up with Sereth. Going to combat, he swings Diluvian Primordial at Mika, who takes the 5. And after that, Ian passes, with Max pinging the Invasion of Tolvada for 1 on his end step with the Staff of Nin. Max draws his 2, and sacrifices his Beast and 2 Incubators to transform Elesh Norn. He then makes 5 more incubators with 2+1/+1 counters onto them, and transforms them all. Max then follows up with a filigree vector, and puts a +1/+1 counter onto all of his and Mika's creatures. He then plays a Marry the Sky Ruin, which comes in tapped. Mika draws and goes to combat. He swings the King of the Invasion, and Ian chumps with a Gilded Goose. After combat, Mika casts a Cameo of False Hopes and passes to Ian. Ian draws for turn and plays a Courser of Crewfix and gets a copy with Volo. He then plays Command Tower off the top, gaining 2 life and going to combat. He swings his 2 Flying Diluvian Primordials at Max and pays the 4 for the Ghostly Prison. Max trades his Essence of Orthodoxy against the copy, and Max then takes 5. After combat, Ian untaps his Diluvian Primordial with Sereth and then passes to Max. Max's upkeep gets him back the Essence of the Orthodoxy thanks to his Emeria trigger, and he gets another Incubator token and then draws 2. He then ticks up the Argent Etchings, giving his creatures +1/+1 and Double Strike, and then activates the Filigree Vector, sacrificing the Incubator token, and proliferates everything on the board, including Mika's stuff. The next chapter of the Argent Etchings also goes up on the stack, and Mika and Max strike a deal where Mika doesn't crack the Cami, and Max gets to kill Ian. Mika instead decides to cast Remedy, and phases out all of his creatures. Once that's done, everything except for Phyrexians, artifacts, and lands are destroyed. But Max is able to save his Ghostly Prison by transforming it into an artifact using a Liquid Metal Torque. Moving to combat, Max then swings out at Ian for a whopping 100 points of damage, and he promptly dies several times over. Post-combat, Max then activates Elesh Norn, flipping her back to the Argent Etchings. He then casts Zenith Chronicler and passes. Mika's creatures phase in, bringing 5 Spirit tokens with them, which are tapped, and he then draws for turn. Mika then casts Damn and targets the Essence of Orthodoxy, and once it's destroyed, moves to combat. He swings both of his flyers at Max, who takes the hit and drops down to 11. After that, Mika passes, and during his end step, Max casts an Unbound Potential, proliferating his board, and then activates the Staff of Nin, pinging Mika for 1. Max gets back the Essence of Orthodoxy again, incubating, and then gets to draw 2. The Argent Etchings tick up again, and Max makes his Ghostly Prison into an artifact with Liquid Metal Torque. And with that on the stack, Mika responds by sacrificing Cami of False Hope to fog combat. He also sacrifices a Spirit to the Ghost Council to exile it until end of turn. The Argent Etchings then resolves, and once more destroys all the non-Phyrexians. Max then plays an Idol of Oblivion, and taps it to draw a card. He then plays a Thespian Stage as his land for turn. He passes through combat, and in his second main phase, casts Pearl Medallion. He then sacrifices some of the transformed incubators to transform Elesh Norn once again. After that, Max passes, and the Ghost Council comes back in and drains Max for 1. Mika draws, but with only a handful of lands, knows he's beat to Max's Phyrexian Onslaught and scoops it up. Game review time. This game was 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 43 seconds. And after the game played out, Ian basically told the table that Vannifar had originally been his Volo deck. He just switched the commanders. As you saw, a lot of the creature base was more focused on having different creature types than mana cost, and some of his selections with Vannifar had to be, we'll call them necessity. It was terrifying to see that Endrazor Forerunner once more, and thankfully I was ready for it at least one of them this time around. Felix continues to be a lot of fun. I like the fact that it's doubler, but it also prioritizes you attacking, meaning the game typically goes a little bit faster since you're smashing face as early as you can. Combined with all the swords, things get pretty nutty, and I was drawing a lot of cards and getting a lot of treasures, so it made a lot of sense that I was the biggest threat early on. Considering how aggressive Mika's King of the Oathbreakers deck can be, this game he seemed to be struggling a little bit. We've since corrected his lines of play since someone commented in one of the earlier videos with the spirits actually coming in tapped because they go off after the untap step. I still think that the way that they worded it is a bit odd, but having read the rulings, the commenter was correct. Max was also very excited with his Elesh Norn deck because he got to do, and I quote, the thing, which is basically repeatedly flip over his commander and blow stuff up with Proliferate. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, Friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.